It was your internet connection is unstable.
Oh no.
It's like, I feel that. Me too. Yes. So power.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna steal that.
He's looking at you, kids.
You had me to it.
I wish I knew how to quit you. Bond.
This seems so
James Bond.
There's no place like home.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
We may not have as much chemistry as Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain did at the Venice Film Festival, but we got movie news, so there's that. This is Gone with the Wind. Cue the music. Hey there, everybody, this is Manning, the host of Gone with the Wind, the show about award shows where we talk about, you guessed it, award shows. And Dan, did you see that GIF going around Twitter of Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac showing a little, how do we put this, being quite well acquainted with each other on the red carpet? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't. I feel bad now that I haven't seen that GIF. I'm gonna have to go look up
Here,
that GIF now.
While I kind of stall for time, I want you to go look that up right now. Just look up Oscar Isaac or Jessica Chastain on Twitter, either one, and you're probably going to find it. But it is very uncomfortable considering the fact that he's married and she's actually right off stage, his wife, Oscar Isaac's wife. But what happened? I won't spoil it. But for those who know, actually, I'll just go ahead and paint the picture for you. Oh, by the way, hi, this is Manning Franks again, and we have Dan the man, Skip Allen, as I call him. But
Yeah,
he's also here.
Yeah, you know, always willing to talk with you, Manning, about awards and all kinds of gifts or whatever, you know, Shang-Chi, whatever the heck we're talking about. You know me, man. I'm up for anything.
We love to hear that. But while you're looking that up, let me paint you all a picture. For those of you who are unaware, that GIF was all over Twitter when before I went to go see Shang-Chi today. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the chemistry that is exuberating between those two. I know that they knew each other back in Juilliard. I believe it's Juilliard they were at. I could be mistaken, but they knew each other. They've been friends for a long time. But woo, that was some spicy chemistry, even if it was just a kiss upon her, was it her, like it's her arm. You know what? You know what it is. Go look it up. It'd be Oscar Isaac or Jessica Chastain on. Did you see it, Dan?
I'm looking up a bunch of photos with the two of them, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
You'll notice it. It was all over Twitter this morning. So I know you were asleep though, because you have a night shift. So I would implore you though, if you do find it, whether it's now or later, go check it out. It is quite spicy. And
well, you know, they were in a most violent year together. So they did do a movie together.
And they actually did do scenes from a marriage, which is that HBO thing, and it's premiered. The first 5 episodes premiered at Venice, so that's why they were there promoting it.
I got you.
So they weren't just there for funsies. But anyway, hi everybody. This is Gone with the Wind. This is not the Jessica Chastain Oscar Isaac fan podcast, even though we stand both of them. I love Oscar Isaac. He's one of my favorite. You know, he's probably my. If there's a man crush Monday, he'd be my man crush Monday. So
he's got great hair. I love his hair.
Oh, his hair is great. It's an inspiration. I remember when he was Joseph in the Nativity Story. That's how I remember him back in like the old days when that was a long time ago. Inside
Llewyn Davis.
Robbed of an Oscar nomination at the very latest. Or very least, at least. He should have 2 Oscar nominations under his belt right now for Ex Machina, in my opinion, and for lead actor in Inside Llewyn Davis.
God, I love that movie.
Oh God, so good. Do you think? Okay, do you consider that do you consider him? How many Oscars nominations or wins, of course, should Oscar Isaac have right now, Dan?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because you don't know what movies came out that year. You don't know how popular the movie was, but okay. I say Inside Llewyn Davis was just an absolute masterpiece in every sense of the word. I mean, it just is an amazing movie, and if he didn't get nominated for that, that's a travesty. But he did. I remember he did a mini series on HBO that was The Night of or whatever.
No, it was
No, that was Riz Ahmed was in the night of.
Yes, Riz Ahmed. It's like No More Heroes or some hero.
Oh God, I loved him in that show on HBO, and I can't think of the name of it right now. Now here we go again. Which we can't remember what we. I hate that.
I don't know. I have no idea.
It always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it seems to happen. Like we just can't see it. Show me a hero. Show me a hero.
Oh, man,
that was it. That was it.
He good in that. I loved him in that. But I think he did get an Emmy nomination for that. But
I think so.
I think Ex Machina was too off the beaten path for like the Oscar voters to put some of those people in there. Even though like Alicia Vikander gets nominated for the one with Eddie Redmayne where she plays his
Danish
wife.
girl. Yeah.
And then she doesn't get nominated for that. So that tells you right there that Ex
Wrong.
Machina really wasn't on their radar.
But then again, it was nominated for a screenplay that year, and it won special effects. So they knew about it. It's just weird. Like, why would you? I guess we were still at that stage where it was still kind of a genre film, and they weren't going to go all out for it because it made I think it made AFI's top 10 list that year.
Yeah.
It did. I remember because I love Ex Machina. I love Ex Machina.
Alicia Vikander to get the Oscar for that, not for the Danish girl.
Agreed.
And she was
No
also
offense to
from
the Danish
Uncle
girl.
that year. She had a good year that year, was it? That was a good breakout year for Alicia Vikander.
That was. And now this year she has Beckett, Blue Bayou, which Beckett, I don't think you're gonna.
Blue Bayou and The Green Knight.
Oh yeah, I don't think she's not gonna replicate an Oscar nomination this year, sadly. But
she plays two characters in The Green Knight.
So then 4 performances, we'll say, because there are 2 separate characters in The Green Knight. Okay, well, that is our Oscar Isaac and now Alicia Vikander tangent aside. But today we're going to be talking about Shang-Chi and the 10 rings. Count them, 10 rings, but there should be 10 bracelets because they are not rings. They are in fact bracelets. They are rings, but they are on their arms. So by definition, they are bracelets. But let's not. They're freaking cool. They're really a cool design, and I really enjoy the sound effects they make. It's a really small thing, but anyway, this is a review of Shang-Chi.
My son, you can't run from your past.
Is this what you wanted?
I would like to start off by saying this is a movie that I had 0 expectations going in. I was excited, but I don't know much about the character when it comes to the comics. I have heard of him, but I know almost absolutely nothing, so I had nothing to go back onto. And then I saw the film. I was excited. First off, the box office is doing very good for this movie, considering we're in a pandemic. Dan's nodding his head in agreement right now. So when I went in with tepid expectations, and they might have gotten a little high because I have heard so much reviews, and I think at the end of the day, it is a movie that has a lot to say, but doesn't necessarily go too far underneath the surface. What I mean by that is that it has a great overarching story, a great family dynamic, and a great exploration about what that family means, but it doesn't really go into deep territory. Maybe I'm just a film snob now and I want this deep themes, but overall, Shang-Chi to me is a breath of fresh air for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is an absolute delight. It is something that especially those first 15 minutes in the prologue, I felt like I was being whisked away to this other world that didn't even feel like Marvel. Like we got mentioned at the blip. We saw some after credit scenes. We had a cameo or 2 from some famous people. You've seen from the trailer, we had Abomination and Wong. A couple others will show up as well too. Some I don't care for, but we'll get into that in a minute. Dan, you probably know who I'm referring to, a Marvel cameo that becomes a little more than a cameo later down the road in the movie. Do you know what character I'm referring to?
God, I watched the movie. Who the heck? What am I talking about?
You saw it a little while ago.
Trevor Slattery.
We'll talk about that in a sec. But overall, I really, really like Shang-Chi, and I'm excited for Simu Lee. Is it Simu Lee? Yes, thank you. Simu Liu. I loved what his did, and Tony Leung for those two brought their A game to this with their performances. Even if I think the writing is kind of fair at best, but they give their heart and soul. And I wanted every time they were not on screen, especially when they were acting together, I kept thinking, why can't I have more of them? Because they provide some of the most compelling characters, and their dynamic was incredibly compelling, that I was very disappointed when we didn't get to explore even more of that. The use of flashbacks I find to be actually really good, because it's interspersed throughout and not one singular sequence where it feels out of place. It's interspersed throughout while they have little different callbacks here and there. When he goes to see his the broken bit of wood, when someone says something else, they feel earned, the flashbacks, and they reveal stuff slowly and surely. And I think it's I was hesitant at first about how the flashbacks were used, but at the end of the day, I think they were used very effectively. And the world of Shang-Chi is something that I appreciate immensely, the use of magic without explaining too much. And, I really enjoyed also, the fight choreography, Dan. The fight choreography, chef's kiss indeed, Dan, chef's kiss indeed. The fight choreography, and Bill Pope, I believe, who, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he did the cinematography for this, and his camera work, whoever was the camera operator, whoever, props to that entire team, because they went with the action most of the time. And what they managed to create and view for us, they made a dance. The use of slow-mo is effective, especially at the very beginning when you're literally having this martial arts dance transpire. It's visually striking, and I utterly adored most of those scenes when it comes to the action choreography on a one-on-one basis. We'll get into my deterrence in a second, but overall, I think it's really good with a really lackluster third act that kind of feels we've been here, we've done that, nothing that's spectacular. But we'll get into more specifics, because some of the stuff I have is spoilery, and I want to give my general thoughts. And I think this is overall a great addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm excited for this breath of fresh air to continue into maybe something more where we see him in the future. So Dan, but what about you? What is your thoughts overall? I know you told us a little bit about it prior in an episode, but tell us again your overall thoughts on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Yeah, the key for me is, and you mentioned the father-son dynamic. And I always like movies that have like a father-son dynamic, because I don't have a great relationship with my father. But Awkwafina and Simu Liu's relationship at the beginning of the movie, it really brings you into the movie, because she's on the outside looking in, and she doesn't realize that this guy's one of the greatest martial artists in the face of the planet. And she said, this is her best friend, and they're freaking over there parking cars for people. And it's like, what the heck is going on around here? And that bus scene, Speed, Step Aside, the new top of the mountain of bus scenes is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
That was so well choreographed. Choreographed.
Amazing. And then the scaffolding scene on the side of the building.
Another great choreographed moment.
I'm a fan of like the late 90s, early 2000s, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, Hero. These movies are just feast for the eyes to look at, in the wire work, in just the action sequences in the films are just amazing. And this movie shows its love for that genre of films. And, this week I watched a bunch of Akira Kurosawa movies, just kind of I was just in that like mindset, that headspace of wanting to watch great Asian cinema. Yeah, and we've had like The Farewell, Crazy Rich Asians, Parasite in the last few years that have done justice for the Asian community. The other thing is, if you're a fan of Iron Man, you're a fan of Iron Man 3, you're gonna get your due. You're gonna get justice. We're gonna get our Trevor Slattery moment, which you loved the fact that they're doing those callbacks to Iron Man 3, and that stuff is really fun to see nurture itself throughout the movie. Yeah. Is the end of the movie a big CGI fest? Look, was Endgame a big CGI fest? Was Infinity War a big CGI fest? Was Captain America the Winter Soldier a big CGI fest? All of these movies have a giant CGI battle. You know, there's just a little bit inside baseball kind of thing with some of these demon CGI type characters at the end. So if you weren't familiar with the Marvel comics and some of these, they call the dream capture, these
Soul Eaters or something.
They're like major like power characters in the Marvel universe that are like in the shadows and stuff like that. And that's kind of what we're dealing with. So if you're not like up on all the Marvel comics, like there was a character called like a Purple Shroud character, Loki. You're like, what the heck is that? Turns out that's a character in the comics, you know? So you got to be up on the comics to kind of know a little bit of that inside baseball stuff that Destin Daniel Cretton is writing about. And then that's why I watch YouTube videos that are explaining the movies sometimes, because the stuff that I don't understand and like some of these channels explain these characters. That's how, okay, that's that character from the comics. Okay, now I understand what they were going for, you know?
And I will say, I don't think the fault lies with their use of the villains or the dark dimension or whatever they call it. I think the idea comes from how rushed personally, and the pacing was incredibly poor for that third act. They literally get to the situation where they are, which is them basically just arriving here and like, he's coming. We need to train real fast. And then they train, and now suddenly Awkwafina's really good at archery. And then there's these people kind of, yeah, and like these people die, and while they're looking up, like, wow, they do a lot of staring. Like 3 times I caught where they stared at someone dying, and they did absolutely nothing to stop them. It's the pacing to me in that third act just felt really wonky. Not the fact of they used. I think the designs are actually incredibly cool with these creatures. It just felt like as cool as you were fighting with, and it was not Fin Fang Foom. Everyone thought it was going to be Fin Fang Foom. It was not. That was just the Great Protector.
They didn't go with that. That was something that people were surprised about, because they thought that was what it was going to be. It was going to be Fin Fang Foom.
It looked like Fin Fang Foom.
Yeah, for a second there, underwater.
In the trailer it did.
Yeah, well, that underwater shot, it looked like, and then when it came up above the protector dragon, there's a protector dragon that helps the people, and that's why I'm only giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars, man. The movie does drag a little bit in the middle, and then it's a little long. So it's slow in the middle when they're getting to do some of those backstory and some of the stuff that you mentioned. And then it does kind of go a little bit long. That fight scene was long.
And I think, well, to me, the highlights are the fight scenes that transpire. Like when it's one-on-one, it's when it excels. When it's just one-on-one fighting, I think Shang-Chi is fantastic, because the way they choreograph it is great. Their use of, the environment, their use of their actual, the elements they're using is very well choreographed. It's when they start to get like this giant, let's fight this giant colossal entity, I just lose interest, not because there's no emotional weight other than we have to stop this to save the world, because they basically kill off a character that we knew for like three seconds, which is that archer guy who's like, am I supposed to care about this person who was kind of following Awkwafina? No, it's Awkwafina is like archer, a mentor person, that old dude.
Oh, yeah, there's an old guy. And if you're a fan of martial arts movies, you'll recognize him in other martial arts movies. He's in other martial arts movies. And also there was a villain, one of the villains, he's like an assassin type villain. He gets killed off, and he's a comic
which
character.
Was kind of, oh, what? See, this is interesting because, like, again, I know nothing about Shang-Chi, so being able to see that, I'm like, wow, he really went out. I know his death was to illustrate the fact that they have to use dragon scales, but it felt very much like after we had this intense, like, hatred that Shang-Chi had for this character, we still don't know who that was. We don't know what their names were, what their purpose was. To me, again, I feel like the issue I had with Shang-Chi was not the world, it was how quick things started to try to wrap up at the end, or how sudden things, because we got a really, really nice build up, like the interaction between Awkwafina or Katie and Sean Sean. Their interaction was great. Him and his sister was great. When they saw their father again for the first time, that was great. That's when Shang-Chi to me excels outside of this, the choreography and the fights between those individuals. Because at the heart of it, at the heart of things, it's a relationship drama. It's a family drama.
Yeah.
And I loved it when it did that because I wanted more of that. And I was really disappointed they killed off Tony Leung's character. I know why they did that, and it was a nice moment between the two of them. However, it was one of those situations where he was like, "No, father." And I would have preferred, I don't know, the death from a CGI character that really kind of came out of nowhere. And I understand why, because it is the fruits of his own labor that prompted his death. Again, spoiler alert. Whoops. But it's the fruits of his own labor that prompted his death. And I understand from a storytelling standpoint, that's why he died. But to me, it was unfulfilling from an emotional standpoint because I would love them to actually have a conversation instead of just a singular look before his soul is sucked away. And it kind of left me hollow because that dynamic was my favorite part of the movie. And then everything else after that, I was kind of bored by. Maybe there was no emotional connection that I had. Like the end of Endgame and Infinity War, when all those stuff happened, I had an emotional connection to these characters. And they were fighting a greater force that I was like, okay, this is someone that could literally, that I have a connection to, Thanos. And because they set him up. I don't have that same thing with these CGI villains, and that's why the CGI monsters, and that's why probably the third act just really rang hollow. But the first act was so strong that I have to give it a good review because the characters were so well done. It's so fresh, and it's really pretty to look at. It's one of the most prettiest that's not English. It's one of the prettiest Marvel films that I have seen, and which is why I think I need to wait to think about. I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 3.5 because I'm out of 5. I'm very conservative about how I give my stars out. But it's along there, and I think everyone should see it, not only because it provides some much needed representation for a community that is underrepresented when it comes to blockbusters. Crazy Rich Asians being the last quote unquote Asian blockbuster, or there's a word, Asian representation blockbuster. So this is the first, I think the last one, or the first one since then. And I want this to succeed because this is more representation that we need on the big screen from an actual hero. Because Simu Liu. I have not heard his name said out loud. But I see him on Twitter all the time, and he seems like he has a great Twitter presence. And he said, "Hey guys, please come out and support this because we want to be able to bang away at these box office numbers. We're not just a statistic." And that's what's happening with this Labor Day 4-day weekend, and I'm very happy about that.
Marvel is very strategic with their releases, and this was supposed to come out last February, but because of the slate changes and all the different things, they were smart and found this date, and everybody got away.
Yes.
There's nothing coming out this week except one movie about 9/11, which it's leading into 9/11, so that makes sense that you'd put the movie on Netflix leading up to 9/11. So, but everybody got away from Shang-Chi this weekend.
And this coming week, isn't it just The Card Counter and Malignant?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So it's sitting pretty for the next week.
Oh yeah, it's gonna clean up again next week.
What is your thoughts on the addition of Trevor Slattery? That's one of my big complaints.
I'm glad they cleaned that up because that was one of the biggest messes Marvel created for themselves, in my opinion, and the 10 Rings, I might add. And having that stuff get cleaned up in this movie really makes me happy because not that I was like a fan of Trevor Slattery or I was against Trevor Slattery, but I was really curious on how the 10 Rings worked, the business aspect, the criminal empire of the 10 Rings worked after Iron Man 1. And they really explained that. And then especially with the post-credit scene now, we're going to see where that goes in future Marvel movies or potential other, we don't know where that's going to go, but I thought they did a great job. That had to be explained. That had to be fixed. Trevor Slattery had to be fixed. The Ten Rings had to be fixed. And with the title Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I was like, we're gonna get the explanation of what the Ten Rings were. And love conquers all, then it doesn't conquer all.
Yeah. Until it doesn't. It does until it doesn't. But can I just first off, let me mention Trevor Slattery. I don't mind him as a character. He's really funny, I think, in some parts, and Ben Kingsley plays him perfectly. The problem I had with Trevor Slattery in this movie was that he feels incredibly out of place. His little cutaway jokes kind of cut away, like him playing dead, really kind of took me out of the big climactic moment. I'm like, was this needed? Did we really need that scene for a laugh? Because as cute as Morris was, we really didn't need, really weird looking, but really, really cute. We really didn't need Trevor Slattery, and he distracted me this entire time. Not that it wasn't funny. There were some great jokes and humor in here that really landed. But at the same time, he just felt out of place from a very climactic scene battle at the end and most of his addition. But it did explain some things that I'm really glad transpired, because I have never liked the name The Mandarin, because when you look at it, it was a different time and place when that was made. So they definitely take the inspiration from that, but they also update it to a really amazing character in that Tony. What is his name again? Wait.
It's just his father. What was his father's name?
His father's name? I'm gonna find out right now, because I totally blanked.
It's all this. It's not the
no. He is. And they is he, because he's centuries old. Do the rings give him?
He found the rings from another dimension. It was a crashed spaceship from another dimension, and then the rings made it helped age him or keep him young. So for decades he didn't age, hundreds of years he didn't age until he met his wife. Then he put the rings away. That's when he aged some, because he didn't use the rings. And then when his wife, when that happened, then he put the rings back, and he went back to the criminal empire of the Ten Rings, legend of the Ten Rings, his whole thing. So one of the things is they don't age him, so he's thousands of years old. And they're saying they reference that he was Genghis Khan in a roundabout way. He was Genghis Khan.
Yeah, I was like, is that what they're trying to imply? I don't know, because of the Winwu is his name. There's a really great scene that is said in this when he and his son are at the big climactic fight scene, and he says, "You could have saved her. You just stood there weak." To him, that stuff. This is when it succeeds, really. Shang-Chi. This is when it succeeds, when you have that dynamic play out, because it's a great thing. Like he did nothing. Like mother told him to stay, and he just kind of watched her die. I would have liked it if they kind of interspersed, because he says, no, I actually did kill this person. I would have liked us to show, because with all the flashbacks, like to show us when he said that, show us the action without actually showing the death, because they show his father basically butchering the people in this this clan, the Iron, I don't know, whatever they're called, Iron Lung, I don't know. Seeing that, I would have appreciated that, because they did such a good job with the flashbacks. I would have liked that a little more. But Tony Leung, what he does with Wenwu makes me almost, I'm sympathetic in a weird roundabout way. He's a very sympathetic villain, because he's someone who just wants to see his wife again. And he's someone who loves his kids in a very twisted way, who literally ignored his daughter and then built his son up at the same time. There's a great interspersed where he's basically training him to the point where his knuckles are bleeding, but then he takes him aside, then he starts to like clean him up and says, you must train your mind as well too, where it's like he's being really tender, but then he can conversely be really ruthless. So it's really just
Marvel villains. I would say
agreed,
easily one of the best Marvel villains so far. They knew that relationship had to be strong with Shang-Chi and the father had to be really built up well in the script and in the story, especially with the 10 Rings and Iron Man, the whole Mandarin thing in Iron Man 3. They had to make that character strong in the script, and they had to get an actor that could portray that, and they did. So that was one of the strengths of the movie, and in a thing that's kind of a weak spot in the Marvel movies is the villain. It turned out to be one of the strengths this time around.
Which makes me sad that I know why they killed him off, but it makes me sad because he was such a compelling villain. And I would have loved to have seen him, in the future. Maybe that's why I was also disappointed about the third act, because I would have appreciated maybe him going into hiding or something to where we can explore that dynamic further, because there was a lot of unresolved questions that I had about, okay, so what was his training like? Who did he actually kill? What was that dynamic explored further? I would have appreciated that. But that's a small nitpick. And at the end of the day, I think it's a great movie. I think it's a very good movie. Maybe not great, it's close, but that third act to me just kind of throws everything.
25, if you count the TV shows and you count the movies, I think there's a total of 25 Marvel properties. And I put Shang-Chi, I think, in the top 10. Shang-Chi in the top 10 of all Marvel properties so far. So to me, it's in the first half of the Marvel, which in the Marvel, none of there's arguably maybe one or two that are kind of bad, but I don't really think that any of them are bad except for Iron Man 2 for me. That's just my personal opinion. A lot of people don't like Thor 2. I don't have a problem with Thor 2, but I put Shang-Chi at 10 of the 25 movies.
And you said that includes the television shows, correct?
No, the television shows would make it 28. There's 3 shows. So Loki, Captain Marvel. So that would be 28. So I put it 10 of the 28.
Okay. I haven't looked at where it ranks yet. I need to still sit on where the final ranking is, but I don't think I think there are some bad films or not good films in the Marvel Universe, but I don't really dislike
any of them.
Yeah, I don't dislike it.
I mean, Iron Man 2 to me.
See, but I can find some good things even in Iron Man 2, which to me is like, Sam Rockwell's performance. I love Sam Rockwell in there.
Iron
Come
Man
on.
3, I'm not a big fan of.
I don't care for that one either, but there's stuff everywhere that I look back and I'm like, okay, I like this, I like that. But there's nothing I outright hate.
Captain Marvel, I'm not the biggest fan of.
I'm not a fan of that one either, really, sadly. That
Age
one was
of
kind of
Ultron is okay. It's
Age of
not
Ultron
great,
has
it's
some
not
great
bad.
moments. It
Yeah,
has some
it does
great
have some
moments.
Good stuff, yeah.
But anyway, we'll do that ranking at another date and time because we don't have. I wasn't prepared for that. I, in fact, was getting prepared to talk about the Venice and the Telluride Film Festivals happening literally simultaneously right now as we are recording this. This is recorded on September 5th. This will be dropping on September next week. I don't know what date that is. But just as a preference, this was our previous episode was supposed to go up a week prior to when this is. I'm backlogged a week for personal reasons that include, as you will hear in the beginning of this of last week's episode, there was a shooting that transpired at a local high school here in the Triad in Winston-Salem. At one kid lost his life to gun violence, and it was something that was a long day for. I work in news, for those who know me. It was a long day, both emotionally and physically. So that kind of backlogged a lot of things, but I thought it'd be best to be able to let that process for a little bit, and then continue on the editing process. So as you will hear at the beginning of last week's episode, but I wanted to make sure in case you missed that one, that was the reason that it was late. But we're back a little bit and we're almost at the point where we're going to have one a week. So get ready for that. But ultimately, Venice and Telluride are happening right now. And we are not there. No one is there. Venice, that'd been impossible for any of us to go with all of the restrictions from going on. Telluride, a little better, but definitely not going to happen right now. However, I know a guy. I know someone who is currently at Venice right now. And I was able to sit down and have a quick interview and a chat with them. And here's our chat. His name is Connor Lightbody. I've known him on the internet for actually a good couple years, to say the least, thanks to Twitter and Facebook. And we are going to have a quick discussion about what his time in Venice Film Festival, what he's seen, and what his thoughts are of that entire process. And did he, in fact, go on a gondola? Yes, you heard it here first. Was it a gondola? We'll find out. Here is the interview with Connor Lightbody. Hey there, everybody. As promised, I have been able to get someone who has actually been to the Venice Film Festival, someone who I have actually, oh, holy cow, how long have I known him? I've known him in passing. We've talked on Facebook, which we neither of us use really anymore. Back in the day, which is about 5 years.
I'd say it's closer. I'd say it's closer to 8, mate.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I started doing Facebook movie stuff about when I was 19, and I'm 27 now. So
where's the time gone? Like literally, where's the time gone? It's just like a
disappeared.
It's just
gone
like
with the wind.
It's okay. That was good. Massive props to that. But yeah, with me I have Connor Lightbody. Connor, what in the world was that? That did not come out right. Connor Lightbody over here. Connor, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Manny. Yeah, pretty good. Sweating, absolute buckets. It is very, very hot and warm over here.
Oh no, I completely understand that. Venice, while I'm sure is very beautiful, you literally told me that it was an actual maze just to be able to get to your friend's flat. So it's Venice. I'm assuming it's a lot because there's a lot of waterways and canals, right?
Yeah. So there's to get here, it was about 0.3 miles, and I must have crossed about 8 bridges.
Jeez, they have like
here. They have like canals all over.
It's just canals.
Yeah.
No sidewalks, nothing.
Well, there's sidewalk, there's building, then sidewalks, and then like bridge, sidewalk, bridge, canal, bridge.
That sounds. More bridges. That sounds like that really does sound like a maze. So I totally understand why you got lost in that, because I would get lost very easily.
Google Maps is the best thing to ever exist.
Listen,
Google there's no signage, there's no signs anywhere. Like, you don't get to know where everything is. So
do they not have like, canal names or like street signs, but canal signs or whatever you call it?
I mean, they've got street names, but it's Italian street names, and I don't know heads or tails about Italian street names. So,
but here you are at the Venice Film Festival regardless.
Yes.
So why did Connor decide to go to the Venice Film Festival? Is this your first off, is this your first time going? And what was that process like of, actually getting the tickets, going there and arriving, all that? Walk us through what the process was, deciding to go and ultimately getting to Venice.
Okay, so the actual initial crux of deciding to go was Dune, frankly. In all of its shape and forms. I would say it was about what month is it now? It's September. June, maybe July. It came out that you could apply for accreditation. The first day on the Biennale website that it was permitted to get accreditation. Click the link. I'm a student, so I provided my student transcript, and I don't know, a couple of weeks later, I got an email saying you've been approved for Venice Film Festival, and then you pay a little fee. So I paid €70 for the pass,
and that's for everything.
Yep, the lot.
That's really good actually for the amount of movies that you saw.
Yeah. So my accreditation is the cinema one, which you'll see there, and with an absolutely awful photo that I didn't realize was going to go on the pass. I regretted it immediately as soon as I saw the pass. But the press pass was a little bit cheaper, and the press get more screenings.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I guess that makes sense because they want press and critics or whatnot, critics groups to be able to see this, and make it as accessible as possible.
I'll go into the booking system. Because because of COVID, they're doing 50% screenings, so the cinemas themselves aren't full, and you've got to reserve tickets. And I'll go into that when I actually get to the festival. But,
so the question I have for you is this your first time going to Venice?
Yeah, it's my first time leaving the UK, so this was a massive deal, I guess.
So this is your first time ever leaving the UK, and you used it to go to the Venice Film. That's really cool.
Yeah, I really thought it was something I needed to do. especially with everything that happened in lockdown and everything COVID related. You need an escape, you need an out, and quite frankly, the UK is boring. So
You heard it here first, everybody.
Yeah.
So with you going to this, what were your expectations going in? And when you finally got there, what was it like to traverse the waterways and to be able to actually arrive at the festival? Because for those people unaware, where is it located in Venice?
Okay, so I didn't know this, and I wish I did. The festival itself is located on an island called Lido di Venezia, and it is about 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on which transport you get. Boat, like it's called a vaporetto, and then you get that across to the island, and then you get a bus from the edge of the island to the festival itself. So the whole commute can be like 45 minutes each morning. And if you've got a screening at 8 a.m., like I did for last night in Soho, it was a very early start. You will travel from the mainland across a bridge to get to Venice itself. And then there is like mini ports and lots of boats. You can get water taxis across.
Oh, nice.
It's insane. Like it's a complete culture shock to the place.
So for this, well, first off, I think I saw you post on Twitter, like you riding, what was it called again? The boat?
Vaporetto.
A Vaporetto. I'm pretty sure I saw that. And I also saw like on Twitter, like I saw other people posting that when they were going to Venice. It looks really interesting, really cool. Is the island really, so everything takes place on that island?
Yeah, which I didn't know. So when I booked my accommodation, I booked it for the actual mainland over the bridge, not realizing that I was going to have to commute to Venice and then from Venice across to the island. So every morning it was about an hour and 40-minute commute for me.
Oh,
massive rookie mistake, but
jeez.
It's a learning curve that I learned very quickly and had to adapt to.
So what is that first day? Walk us through the first day, what you saw, and the subsequent days that afterwards.
The way the festival's set up is there's a little hub where the red carpet takes place, and there's multiple screenings inside one big building called the Palazzo di Casino. I'm very sorry for butchering your language, any Italians that are listening. There's like the Sala Casino, the Sala Perla. There's like 3 or 4 in there, and then the press screenings are in there as well. The press conferences are there, and the press room, so people can go and charge and use Wi-Fi and all that. I don't get that luxury, unfortunately. I'm just on O2's data. And then as you go around, there's the Sala Grande, which is the kind of the main one where all the premieres take place. So whenever you see a standing ovation, like 5-minute standing ovation, it's always in the Sala Grande, which I personally don't recommend as a screen.
It's not great.
It's nice. It's just it's not tiered, if that makes sense, like TIER.
Oh, really?
Tiered. So it's flat, and there's subtitles at the very bottom, and you just can't crane your neck slightly to see. It's still absolutely gorgeous, still a lovely cinema, but if it was tiered, you'd be able to see a lot clearer and over the very tall people that sit in front of you. I
saw that tweet that you did, the passive aggression you had of the guy in the green shirt. That was fantastic.
Yeah, so that was a film I saw called Official Competition, and it's an Antonio Banderas film in Spanish, and the English subtitles were just a little bit too low for the seat that I was in, and everyone else had the exact same experience. So as the person in the second row moved to the left, the third row would move to the right, and then it'd just be a complete Mexican wave of people moving their heads to read the subtitles.
Imagine people going, "Woo!"
Yeah, and also I'm assuming that guy was about 6'5", because like,
jeez,
I don't know. I'm just putting a bit of hyperbole on there.
So, what did you see the first day? What did you see, and what were your thoughts? Tell us the movies.
The first day I got on the 31st. So my first day was the first, and I booked a ticket for something called The Promises. It was a Isabelle Huppert film that I liked.
Oh.
I liked it a lot. It's a political drama featuring a mayor of Paris who's trying to pass a bill that she wants to fix her community, but her term is running out. So as the film progresses, she realizes that she's not going to be able to pass this bill in time. So she then it delves into her craving power. So she ends up running for another term, as you can imagine, much to everyone who has said their goodbyes to her. And yeah, it's fun. It's I wouldn't say it's fun. It's good, and it's very moving by the end, especially because it definitely tries to be like. It's not a very prominent score to a film. It doesn't have a prominent score, but at the end, the music swells up, and you know what it's trying to do. So it takes it with a pinch of salt is the phrase I'm looking for. So that film. Sorry, I went on a diversion.
No, you're okay.
That was the first film I saw. I had it booked for 8:15 in the morning. So I left my accommodation at 6:30, thinking an hour and 40-minute commute. I'll get there on time. Did not get there on time. Had to cancel the booking, which is annoying. But I got to rebook it for later in the day at 11.
Okay, cool.
So I arrived at Venice at 8:10. However, it being my first instance in Venice, I didn't realize that people walk into a screening late as the norm.
Oh, it's the norm.
It's the norm, and it's
Why?
very annoying. It's very annoying.
That's disrespectful to me personally, but go ahead.
I would agree, which is why I was 5 minutes late for the film, and I said, no, I'm not going to walk in late. I did not know that the entire festival would have people walking in up to 20 minutes late.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, why would you want to watch a film that you've missed the first 20 minutes of? Like, at that point in time, I would just not bother going. I'll explain the booking system because that's a headache and a half. It's caused a lot of frustration with the entire festival.
I've heard about that. I've heard some rumblings through Twitter and other stuff that I've listened to. Like, it is a very difficult, or maybe not difficult, like, explain the headache.
100% difficult.
Okay, cool.
It is the worst headache you'll ever have. So, how it works is that press screenings get 72 hours from the until the 1st of September. Press screenings got 72 hours to book. So, if it was on September 1st, it would be August 29th that you'd book the film. When the 1st of September rolled around, it became 74 hours.
Okay.
So an extra 2 hours. So if you wanted to book a film for September the 4th at 8 a.m., you'd have to get up on September 1st at 6 a.m. and book your ticket. And the tickets sell out within 5-10 minutes for everything.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So my early screening for June, my early screening for Soho, and my Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon tickets all had me getting up at 6 a.m. to book.
And I know that that's unfortunate considering that it's not only a headache to be able to do all that, but because you're already running yourself ragged with going through all these different festivals. Because I know it's not an easy thing to be able to go see all these movies at once. And that sounds like, oh, it's hard to see the movies, but you're in that scorching heat. You have to make sure you're in a place you don't know. So I understand. And I'm sure that was an absolute, as you've said, headache.
Paying €1.50 for a bottle of water 17 times a day. That's what it felt like.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's not like overly expensive. I was in Milan on my way here, and that was more expensive. So I kind of weaned myself into Venice a little bit. So my first day was The Promises. I think that was the only film I saw that day.
Okay.
Oh no, I saw The Power of the Dog in the evening.
Oh, okay. Now, may I make a
Okay.
comment real fast before you mention this? I know you are lower on this than a lot of people that I have been following and whatnot. And I'm genuinely curious as to, again, without any spoilers, of course.
Of course.
But tell me, because again, it hasn't come out wide. Tell me what are your thoughts on The Power of the Dog as this? Because again, this has been a touted thriller from Jane Campion, from who did The Piano, another critically acclaimed film. But tell me, what are your thoughts on The Power of the Dog? Because I know you were really low. I believe you gave it 2 stars out of 5.
Yeah. I'll preface it with this is my first time seeing a Jane Campion film.
Okay.
I haven't seen The Piano. I know of The Piano.
If it makes you feel any better, I haven't seen it either, so.
It makes me feel so much better. Thank you. The Power of the Dog is a very, very slow Western featuring Benedict Cumberbatch, who is single-handedly, I think, is the worst character I've experienced this entire festival. Not for how he's written, but for in terms of the fact that he's a complete. Can I swear? Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's a complete twat. Like, he is nasty. He is nasty beyond measure to this kid of his. So his brother's wife's son. So his nephew-in-law.
I love that. Brother's wife's son.
Yeah, and he is an awful. He demeans him, calls him and my issue with the film is that the switch from complete arsehole goes to mentor in the space of a minute from the film, and the reasoning is it is there for, like, there's a scene where he's looking at a mountain and he sees a dog in the mountain, which is why the film's called The Power of the Dog.
Oh, okay. So that's what it is about. Holy cow. I never knew why it was called The Power of the Dog. You just answered that for me. Sorry. I'm just so excited to finally know why. So go ahead. Yeah.
I'm trying not to spoil. Okay, so the film is about sexual repression in gay men in I guess the 1800s. I think it's set in 1925, so the 1900s.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't vibe with you. You're mean because you're repressed. Like, I don't know why I can't get on board with just because you're not having sex means you can go and beat people up and treat people like complete assholes. Like it's literal vermin. Like, and to give credit to Campion, absolutely, when he's doing the things he does, I'm trying to spoil, it is quite visceral. It is quite reactive. It does elicit those really strong feelings of, like, this guy is an arsehole, I hate him, but also that's the point. I just don't vibe with the fact that you're supposed to dig him even though he's an arsehole.
So correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not coherent at all there, sorry.
Oh no, that actually makes perfect sense. So correct me if I'm wrong. From what you're saying is that she does a good job in making you hate him, but then the question arises from the screenplay perspective. Why is he our main hero if we don't? Some people have been, or why is he our main hero if he is doing these awful things that we can't get on board with? So it's basically just like it is a uncomfortable slash there's a word I'm trying to think of. It's an uncomfortable slash just I can't think of the word, but you know what I mean? Like it's something you can't get on board with.
It's trying to do a redemption arc, but it doesn't work at all because you just don't. You kind of want to see him dead more than redeemed. Like, he doesn't deserve to be redeemed. Like, there wasn't enough motive for him personally. Like, sexual repression is the motive, but it's like,
is it really?
It didn't sit well with me at all.
So that's your biggest problem with the movie, is the fact of how it deals with that, correct?
Yeah. Also, Benedict Cumberbatch is probably going to get like Oscar nominations for it, but I think he goes from 0 to 10 within the first 30 seconds, and he doesn't come down from 10. It's like
Sounds exhausting.
yeah, it's exhausting, and I'm not sure how long the film is. It's about 2 hours, 2 and a bit hours. It feels it as well because it's a slow western, but it's just not enough. I don't know. It's just maybe I would love to watch it again, and when it hits Netflix, I will. I've talked about it endlessly to how it deals with its themes on repression and all that jazz. But when it hits Netflix, I will definitely rewatch it with a bit more energy, because after a long first day in the heat, going into a massive screening, so we saw it at a place called the Pala Biennale, which is it can seat maybe about 500 people. It's a giant kind of airport hangar. So it's very spacious and echoey.
Okay.
So
wow.
when they're talking in the desert, in the western desert, like it sounds like they're in a recording studio and it's echoing. Like that's not a detriment to the film, because absolutely that will not be the case when people watch it without the echo. But that is, I mean, filmmaking is an immersive process with lots of different senses. Like that is thingy. I've just got a notification. There you go. It's not my laptop. So I'm like, I don't know what that is, so I'll just delete it.
Get out of the way.
It was your internet connection is unstable.
Oh no.
It's like, I feel that. Me too. Yes, so power of
I'm gonna steal that.
I didn't vibe with it. I know what it was going for. I appreciate it. It looks brilliant, and then Johnny Greenwood's score, when it actually hits, is phenomenal. And I definitely see it getting some love come Oscar season. Even if it wasn't by Jane Campion, I also think that, like, even without her prestige, because it is a decent enough film. It's just one that I did not vibe with at all. And I said I would love to rewatch it. I don't see how some elements can be better than a rewatch. So the film is like chopped up into 5 chapters as well.
Interesting. Do you see a similarity? Some people call it like similarities to There Will Be Blood. Do you see that comparison?
I haven't seen There Will Be Blood, so I can't compare, I'm afraid.
Ah, okay. Because I'm curious, as that they are saying his character is similar to someone you would just kind of want to see burn, and Daniel Day-Lewis's Daniel Plainview. So that is where the comparison is that I've seen. So I just was curious if you had heard that.
I haven't heard that comparison personally, but I don't disagree. Like, you kind of really effing hate Benedict Cumberbatch's character in this a lot, and when the turn happens in the middle, he doesn't take it down a notch either. Like, even with you'll see the scene in the trailer where Benedict Cumberbatch is holding Cody Smith McPhee's head, and he's got him by the nape of the neck. That's supposed to be like a really intimate moment, but it's so like brutish. It doesn't work. It doesn't have any intimacy at all, and yeah, it was just whether or not she's going for a bit of like toxic masculinity in that form, I don't know. Not Kristen Stewart. What's her name?
Kristen Dunst.
Dunst. Thank you. I was about to say Kristen Stewart, but that's a whole new.
That's a whole nother thing.
I haven't seen that though. I haven't seen Spencer. I missed it. I missed tickets.
I'm so excited for that.
That went out. That was literally insane. Within 30 seconds of those going on sale, every single ticket had gone.
Wow.
And that was the press screening. There was like 5 screenings altogether, and they all sold out within 30
That's
seconds.
Amazing.
Like,
That's amazing.
Awful. Not amazing.
Well,
I missed it. It was awful.
Okay, it was awful. Amazing that it did that, but awful in this sense. But you were saying about Kristen Dunst, and then we'll move on to the next day as well.
Yeah, she's good, but she had this interview where she says that she's a fully fledged character, and she loves working with Jane Campion because she's a fully fledged character. I think that she's literally just a housewife. She's a housewife that is a little bit like her character traits are that she's a mum, she's a wife, and she wants to do chores, and she's an alcoholic. Like, there's not a lot more to her than that.
Okay.
I think there could probably be some subtext that you could glean, but personally, I wish she had a lot more to do. Because when she doesn't disappear from the film, but when the story takes a more focused turn on the Cumberbatch and McPhee duo, she gets waylaid completely to the side.
Okay.
But yeah, let's move on. So that was first. That was
Yes.
first day.
Second day.
And then we go to Atlantide. The next film was Atlantide. Absolutely awful.
Ooh.
I think it's one of the worst films I have seen ever.
That's a strong statement.
Yeah, honestly, I wish I'd walked out of it because it never got better. It's a film that I've reviewed already, but it's a film that is just set on the waters of Venice. So it's this kid, he steals a propeller and he goes to Venice, and the whole film is basically him floating around Venice in his speedboat doing drugs. Like, it's all vibes, it's all neons, and it's just like there's a really good sex scene in there on a boat. I will give it that credit. It was a good scene, but the film itself is basically an Instagram story and a Snapchat story. Like, the narrative comes in like tiny little fragments. Ironically, I'm selling it like I want to see this, but it was dreadful, absolutely dreadful. The next film I saw was The Lost Daughter, Maggie Gyllenhaal's debut, which is frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
The London Film Fest premiere is happening next month.
Okay.
And it's getting a gala screening, and I'm not sure how people are going to respond to it. It's
what do you mean by that? You don't know how they're going to respond?
Weird. But it's not weird in a nice way that you can be like, I'm vibing with this. It's a film about a writer. What's her name?
Olivia Colman?
Olivia Colman, thank you. I'm very sleep deprived.
It is okay.
I'm sleep deprived, leave me alone. Where was I? Yeah, so Olivia Colman plays a writer who goes on holiday, and it intercuts between her life on this beach and dealing with Dakota Johnson's family.
Mm-hmm.
So the family appear like, I think they're mobsters or mafia of some kind.
Oh dear.
And they're described by I really should have wrote this down. What's his name? Paul Mescal from Normal People. He describes them as they're bad people, stay away, but she doesn't stay away from them. And it's all about like motherhood. So it intercuts between her life there on this Greek island. It's not a sequel to Mamma Mia, unfortunately. There's no dancing.
Third sequel, the third threequel.
I would have enjoyed that a lot more. And then it intercuts between her life there and the how she got there, I guess. So there's lots of like little reveals about how she grew up. Not how she grew up, but how she raised her kids. And it's about abandonment. So the film is called The Lost Daughter. There is no lost daughter in this film.
They're all found.
It gives you the idea, like the visual idea early on, that there's a daughter that goes missing, or like Olivia Colman's lost her daughter at some point. But no, that's not a spoiler. That's just there's nothing in there. That's just the name of the film for some strange reason. It should have been called The Lost Doll because the whole plot revolves around a doll that goes missing.
Really?
So, yeah.
Huh. I guess the doll is
it's
the daughter?
the doll is the crux of the plot.
I did not know that. Interesting.
It's strange. It's very bland. So I love Maggie Gyllenhaal. I think she's a phenomenal actress, but she needs someone to let her know that she doesn't have to do medium close-ups with everything. So there's like a 10-minute dialogue scene, which is just intercut between there for Dakota Johnson, there for Ed Harris, there for Olivia Colman.
There's no variety in the shots.
There's no variety. There's no flair. There's no visual panache of it, and it just kind of feels very melodramatic and quite stagnant.
I heard that
constantly.
How is Olivia Colman though? I've heard good things about her.
Great. She's
still
great. Like
it's like
I
love her.
I can't fault her, but like there's just moments where she goes. It just goes a bit weird, a bit zany. Like the ending's weird. Like so the framing device used is that Olivia Colman is so the first 10 seconds or so is Olivia Colman lying on a beach getting the waves with the waves washing over her.
Mm-hmm.
And then it bookends that with the same scene, and then you get the context of why she's there eventually.
Yes.
I'm not going to spoil that, obviously. I forgot the point, but it's just the actual context for her to get there is just a bit weird. It feels like a completely unnecessary, superfluous bookend and framing device. So I don't see the point. Maybe I've missed something, that there was a point to her, like, the waves are washing her sins away or something like that. I don't know.
It will be on Netflix, so see it again.
Well, yeah, I hope so. I didn't really enjoy it as much. I liked the themes and the concepts of it a lot. So there's a lot on sexual attraction and how she goes by her urges, sort of thing.
Okay.
And that's one of the cruxes of the whole dynamic between her and her daughters, what she wants to do, but she's stuck raising a family, kind of thing. So there's a lot of conflict there, but it's just the way it's all shot and handled is just very bland.
So it's not the way it's presented; it's the way that it's not. So it's not the story; it's the way it's presented.
I think the story has some really strong merit. There could definitely be something really good there. I just don't think it's put together well.
There's two more that I want to hear about in particular, besides Power of the Dog and the Lost Daughter. That is Dune and Last Night in Soho. Where were they in your list of days you saw them?
June was the 4th, and Last Night in Soho was the 5th. So I saw June at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning and Soho at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Oh, that's a wake up call for both of those.
Yeah, June was a wake up call. June is a complete bolt of lightning, energy burst.
Jeez.
June is half sensational, half very, very frustrating. Hans Zimmer, insane. Timothée Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, the whole cast is amazing. Denis Villeneuve with his insane scope and scale. It is a fucking gargantuan movie.
That's what I've heard.
But there's not a gargantuan amount of narrative for a 2.5-hour film.
What I've also heard.
It's part one. It's setup. It's all world building. It's all character setup. It's all a little bit of time
says
travel.
Part one, right?
Yep, absolutely. It comes up with not the BBFC title card, but it comes up as the screen June, and then it fades in part one. And the whole audience was just like, "What?"
Just imagining the shock reactions.
But yeah, it's a lot. It looks amazing. I'm not sure how people are going to respond to it. But then again, I would love to know what people thought about the Fellowship of the Ring when it first came out, because the likeness is not well, not without merit. I've said that already, but you know what I mean. Like it's there. Like in terms of scale, I would say that June is insanely huge, but I'm not going to say that's what it's all got going for it, because there is so much there in terms of like power and political chess moves and stuff. Like it's just a lot. I would really love to see it again and like know where it's going. There's a couple of surprises in there. Not if you've read the book, obviously, but it's mad. And Last Night in Soho, because I realized we're really running out of time. Last Night in Soho is not Edgar Wright's best work.
Now, there are some people saying it's a big departure from what he's done in the past, from his signature style.
There's very little of his signature style there.
Huh. Okay,
so
I guess
there's a pub scene where it like flashes across the pint glasses, which is very reminiscent of like The World's End.
Yes.
And there's a couple of like overhead shots that are very reminiscent of some Edgar Wright stuff, but there's none of the like normal writerisms, the quick edit. There's quick editing, but it's not in the same visual style and flair. So let's take The World's End, for instance, 6 pint glasses and then a pint of water. That visual representation there is a lot more, not really deep, but it's showing and it's saying a lot more than a lot of the things do in Soho. Soho is very much a homage to 60s horror, like Dario Argento and stuff like that, which has been put on film Twitter for the last 3 months since the trailer dropped, so everyone's aware of that. But it just kind of loses its way a lot near its end. I absolutely love Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy, and what part Matt Smith has, he's fine. Like he's got a big role, but he hasn't got that much range of a role. Like he basically has like 5 lines that he repeats, sort of thing.
Okay, now I'm really curious
like,
about what this is.
Yeah, it's really strange. Like, what do you know of the plot? Like, because I knew nothing about it going in.
All I know is that Edgar Wright sent something out about saying, hey guys, on his Twitter, don't spoil some things. It's really interesting. But from what I'm gathering from what people are saying is that it's a very psychological thriller with a lot of horror elements, and that it kind of derails like in the second half, like they take a turn.
It's too bright to be a real psychological horror.
Okay.
It's like, so it's like fashion designer. This young girl wants to be a fashion designer. She moves into student halls, and the students that she's living with are complete to her. She then moves into a flat in Soho, and she starts having dreams and nightmares about this girl, which is played by Anya Taylor-Joy.
And both of them are fantastic from what you're saying, correct?
Absolutely. Like, I know other people have a little bit of a mixed opinion on Thomasin McKenzie, but I thought she's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I loved her in Leave No Trace and everything else she's done. But yeah, it goes off the rails in the third act. Like, it wants to pull the rug out from under you. You may not see it coming, but it just feels very soap opera kind of reveal. Also, the last point I'll make on it is that there's elements to this and how it deals with sex work that is a little bit problematic, and I feel there's going to be quite a bit of backlash come the reveal and come the release. Not complete backlash. I think because of Edgar Wright's prestige, I think he'll avoid it, but there's definitely going to be some think piece articles we should expect.
I'm looking forward to that, because I have heard Last Night in Soho did not get the reception I thought it was going to get. It's definitely gotten in comparison to some other stuff out there. Even in comparison to Dune.
Mixed.
Yeah.
Like I had a chat with my friends. There was like 5 of us afterwards, and we were all kind of on the same wavelength. That was all right. It was like didn't really enjoy the message at the end. Like it didn't
Mm.
completely work, but it was still visually entertaining, and obviously Edgar Wright soundtrack can't go wrong. Like, yeah. I know we're gonna have to wrap this up, but I haven't talked anywhere near enough about the actual festival. Last film I'll mention is a film that I walked out of 2 hours ago. It is a film called Happening.
Not The Happening.
Not The Happening. There's no Mark Wahlberg. It's a French film about a young girl who tries to get an abortion in the 1960s.
Oh yeah, you told me this beforehand. That's heavy.
It's very heavy. It's very graphic, and it pulls absolutely no punches. And I really appreciate it. Like I thought it was really, really good. And at this moment in time, between that and official competition, are like vying for my top two. My top two at the moment.
So quickly, tell us a little bit more official competition, because I saw that on your Twitter. You were very high on official competition.
Oh, I loved it. It is a satire about the filmmaking process. So you've got you've got a businessman who says, "Oh, I haven't done anything with my life, but I've got billions of dollars," sort of thing. So he buys a book, hasn't read the book. He hires a director that he's never heard of. It's a satire on Sony, basically. But
love it.
And it goes all these weird places about the creative process. It's like the director is Penelope Cruz, and one of the actors is Antonio Banderas.
Wait, Penelope Cruz directed this?
No. So the businessman hires a director played by Penelope Cruz.
I was about to say, like, that's so cool. How did I not hear this?
I had the same confusion, mate. It's okay. Yeah, so she plays the wacky, zany director who wants them to do 17 takes of one word kind of thing. Like, it's so funny. I will say, though, it's a 2-hour film that wears itself thin very quickly. Like, you get on its wavelength, you can see the jokes coming, you know what the punchline is going to be. Still funny. My audience was laughing and clapping the entire way through.
Oh, nice.
Like, I loved it. I really loved it. Yeah.
So what I'm gathering is that a lot of these also had to do with like the audience interaction. How were the audiences is the last question I'll ask. How were they when you went to each
single film has a standing ovation.
I've heard
no matter what it is, every single film gets a festival clap. And I've clapped at one film, and that was Happening. Oh. No, I clapped at official competition too, actually.
Okay.
And I gave Dune like a that was
like a
that was good. That was good.
The spectacle made you want to clap in a way.
Yeah, I also really wanted to watch the second part of Dune immediately. Like I felt the
That's
same
good.
way. Yeah, absolutely, but it's not even filmed yet.
Does it feel like a complete film on its own? No.
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, then we need the second
one.
If
it doesn't get greenlit, it has to get greenlit. Like, I'm sorry, you can't put part one on a film and then never do it again. There's too much star power. There's too much praise. I don't want to say that it's going to bomb, but I don't know how well audiences will appreciate a slow burn sci-fi epic.
I sincerely hope that it does well, because I want to say I haven't seen it, but it excites me. And hearing you without, again, most people probably going into this thinking, okay, the narrative is going to be a little thin, nothing to write home about. So I'm that kind of what I expected. So I'm glad to hear that it meets those expectations, at least from your eyes.
Yeah. So 2.5 hours of world building and creating the different dynamics at play that they're going to get payoff with the second one. They just don't have any payoff whatsoever. I'm sorry to say.
Well, let's hope we get that second one so we can finally get that payoff. And finally, you mentioned Happening and official competition. Those are your favorites, correct? And do you know if
June? I know I've been a touch negative on it, but they're my top three. Those three are my top three. Yeah.
So we know Dune has an official release. Does Happening have a release to your knowledge in the States or anywhere outside of the film festival?
Have a release? I'm just finding out. Do you know if Happening has a release at all? Google.
Now I'm really curious.
It's very graphic.
no official release dates for any country.
And there's no official release date for it yet. But
That's unfortunate.
When this tiny 19-minute French film comes out, whenever, if ever, it's well worth it. It's getting a lot of buzz, frankly. Like, I know
Sounds good.
from the jury scores on it, I think it was about 3.75, which is equal to Power the Dog, which is on track for Golden Lion at the moment. So
Okay, so you think that's going to be
getting
the
a lot
Golden
of
Lion
good buzz. It's just very heavy. It is the only film that the audience sat in stunned silence for a good 10 seconds after it. Like the first maybe 10 names appeared before the claps happened. Like we just sat there completely gobsmacked. Like a lot of films try to get that, but it's always ruined by people wanting to go to the next film.
Moving in and out, as you were saying.
Yeah. Also, last point, Venice Film Festival booking system. You can book a film, a press film, 24 hours in advance. So because of the 72 hours, 74 hours, and 24-hour rule, means that if you're in a film at 8:30, and then there's a film at 11:30 3 days later, you want to be booking at 9:30. That's an hour into your film. So you're either going to miss booking a ticket for that film, or like everyone did, got their phones out halfway through the film to book tickets.
That is
very frustrating.
Well,
last film.
Yes.
Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, the new Anna Lily Amirpour. How do you pronounce it? I don't know. It's bonkers. Absolutely insanely bonkers.
Nice.
It feels like it's shot on an iPhone. Like it is such a B movie, but it's one of those ones, couple of drinks, like get some friends round and just enjoy Ed Screen eating every fucking scene up. And insane. It's so much fun.
I have not heard of Ed Screen doing anything since like what, Deadpool or Alita Battle Angel. That was it. So I'm glad to hear that he's doing something.
Yeah, he plays a tattooed with a grill. It's like,
is he like Alien from Spring Breakers?
Thank you.
What?
Okay, yes, he's absolutely Alien from Spring Breakers. That is the performance I've been trying to recollect for the last 24 hours since I saw Mona Lisa. It's like, it reminds me of someone. James Franco in Spring Breakers. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's such a weight off my shoulders.
I'm glad I could provide a weight off your shoulders. But Connor, we definitely have to wrap it up now because I have to leave for work in the next 3 minutes. But holy cow, I enjoyed talking to you so much about all this stuff. And I loved hearing about this. So thank you for letting us have a little look inside the world of the Venice Film Festival and for your time, because I know you're exhausted.
Yeah, it's 3 p.m. here. I would say maybe about 15 hours of sleep over the last week, because it's just like maybe 3-hour chunks and then you're back again. Like it's, yeah. Well, I booked an extra night of accommodation just so I have a day in an actual bed to just sleep and just recover before I travel again.
Well, I implore you to get some sleep because you've deserved it after having this long run around for the Venice Film Festival.
Yeah, I mean, that was my last film. Happening was my last film.
Well,
so my plan of action now is to get food and have some more drinks.
And enjoy yourself.
Drinks.
I'm about to say this is
half this festival has just been drunk. Not gonna lie.
But hey, you remember everything. That's what counts at the end of the day.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But anyway, thank you again, Connor.
Yes.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be able to talk to us about this. And for all those listening right now, thank you again for listening to this section. We're going to go back to the main show right now. So I'm going to cut this right here. Hey y'all, Manning here. Sadly, in my rush to get to work, I forgot to ask Connor to plug his stuff. So if you want to find more Connor content, you can follow him on Twitter at Calbody, that's CALBODY, and read his Venice reviews online at the independent publication Jump Cut Online, who guest hosted Connor at this event. Thank you again, Connor, for taking time out of your day, and please go give him a follow. That was the interview with Connor Lightbody. I hope you guys enjoyed that. He gave us a little inside look at what the Venice Film Festival was like, both the movies he saw and the actual experience. And I hope you guys enjoyed the question that he answered of, yes, did he go on a gondola? I'm recording this, honestly, before I find out. So we're going to see. So Dan, Venice and Telluride are both transpiring right now. Venice from September 1st to September 11th, a longer week, and then Telluride, September 2nd to the 6th, which is a shorter time period. And both these are happening, and we have gotten a slew of Oscar contenders in this span of time. So we're going to start off with Venice, because Venice, of course, is the one that most of these premiered at, ranging from Power of the Dog to Spencer, which both had their world premieres. And we got some early reactions to these.
Right.
We got some great reactions. Power of the Dog and Spencer and The Hand of God and Parallel Mothers all had their world premiere at the Venice Film Festival.
Dune, right?
Dune. Thank you. I was like, I'm missing one. What was it? Dune had their world premiere at the Venice Film Festival. But did Last Night in Soho also have its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
There's so many. I was about to say it is doing. The Venice Film Festival is over here just being like, yes, we will have all of your movies, please and thank you. The first one I want to talk about is one that last week you heard me gush about this one. It was premiered the 3rd, so 3 days ago, and it has met with a rapturous not applause, I guess. They have standing ovations all the time, I feel like. No matter what movie you are, they're always going to give you a standing ovation, no matter what film festival, I feel like, unless you're really bad. But no, we have be it from Telluride and Venice, because it premiered at both. One had the world premiere, one was the American premiere of Spencer. Pablo Larraín's Spencer, or Larraín. I'm not even going to try. That's the only time you're going to hear me try to do it, and that was the last you'll hear me try to pronounce it that way. But from different reactions we have that include Scott Menzel, who says, Spencer is haunting and deeply complex character study. A phenomenal film, easily one of the year's best. You will not see a better performance this year than Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana. Brilliant filmmaking, storytelling, and score. Kristen is and I'm quoting him this entire time, folks, is a lock for the Oscars. So another one from Clayton Davis of Variety says, it's easy to say Kristen Stewart's turn in Spencer is her gift to cinema, but it's her gift to Diana. She gives her the happy ending she always deserved. Pablo Larraín has cemented his place as the boss of the horror biopic genre. Johnny Greenwood's score is killer. And then a couple more that I have for Spencer. Well, I thought I had it. Here we go. From Scott Mance. I'm completely floored by how magnificent Kristen Stewart is in Spencer. Her immersive commitment is beyond incredible. Oscar nom for sure. Film is a grossing mood piece in a portrait of Princess Diana as a suffocated prisoner looking to make a jailbreak. Now, if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what could. And then Ann Thompson also had a great review that I read from IndieWire, where she is kind of lukewarm on the film, not super enthused, but it's a B+, or I believe it's a B+, B- that she gave it. So she still really likes it. There have been no bad reviews on Spencer. In fact, it has been a almost universal acclaim, if not mixed reviews from most critics that I have seen. Most of that pouring in for the costumes, the score, the direction, and of course, Kristen Stewart as Diana. So Dan, after hearing all this praise from Venice and Telluride about Spencer, do we get aboard the hype train, or should we wait?
I'm a sucker. I will get aboard the hype train pretty fast.
That's the spirit.
When I need to, I'll just jump off. But I don't think I'm going to be jumping off Kristen Stewart anytime soon, because I've been singing the praises of Kristen Stewart for years now, ever since like Into the Wild and movies like that, Personal Shopper, Clouds of Sils Maria. She has got the chops. Her and Robert Pattinson just got a bad rap from Twilight.
They do.
And I kept on telling people, don't lump her and him into this Twilight thing, because those movies aren't good movies. They are great actors. Go like her as Joan Jett and damn it, got the Joan Jett biopic about the band she had before she had
I
Joan
haven't
Jett
seen
and the
this.
Blackhearts.
Wow.
Oh, she was fantastic in that. I loved her in that, and so I saw this potential for Kristen Stewart years and years ago, despite the Twilight film, especially in Into the Wild, her first like kind of breakout role. You're like, oh, I saw something right then. I was like, oh boy, this is somebody who's got something. And then she got that big role in Twilight, and it kind of steered her off in this direction. And she ended up going in the other direction, which is the direction she should have been going in all along. But hey, I mean, you're not going to not turn down the big budget, big money. Jennifer Lawrence did the same thing with Hunger Games. You got to take that big role out of the gate and get that money and get that fame, and then you can go do your.
Gotta get that money.
Yeah, but Pablo Larraín, we all know him from Jackie, and it appears that he has this kind of lane all to himself right now.
He does.
Jackie, and now with Spencer, and I wanted look. I am a huge fan of The Crown. I am a huge
same.
Fan. And Corrin, Amanda or
Emma Corrin
was amazing. Then we're going to get
was.
Elizabeth Debicki in the next season, and I'm just looking forward to how good Elizabeth Debicki. But this is a 2-hour whatever block of time. We're going to be able to get that kind of end days, kind of not really end days, but really kind of a tough moment in Diana Spencer's life.
Very raw. Yeah.
Very raw moment, and it was very well done in The Crown. But this guy knows how to kind of really get the performances out of his actors. Natalie Portman as Jackie, and now Kristen Stewart, from what I'm hearing, in Spencer. So yeah, I don't think I'm getting off the hype train of Kristen Stewart anytime soon. Even though I am on the hype train of Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I've been on the hype train for that, and I'm not going to jump off of that either.
Oh, no need to jump off of it. You can stay on multiple hype trains. There's 5 nominations for Best Actress out there, so more than likely, both of them are going to land something. I mean,
how about this though? We're right now, man. We're going to get Aretha Franklin, Jennifer Hudson.
Yes.
We're going to get Tammy Faye Baker, Jessica Chastain. We're going to get Diana Spencer, Kristen Stewart. 3 real life people.
Yeah.
And different performances by all 3 of these actresses, but very good performances by all of them.
The playlist from Jessica King. This is a quick little excerpt from Metacritic, but listen to this. All the right people are going to hate Spencer. That's just how good it is. So I'm not sure that's a dig at the royal family or something, but
oh no,
we're gonna find out. I find that to be an interesting, and I can't wait to be able to see Spencer. But at the end of the day, this is a positive review. Most of these are positive reviews, and I'm gonna be on the lookout for picture, director, actress, costume, cinematography. From what I'm hearing, this is something we got to keep on the lookout for. So that is Spencer, but there's another big movie that came out recently. You know what that is, Dan?
The Power of the Dog.
Well, yes, but there's another one too that is literally scope big. It's big in scope. Dune. There you go. Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune, and I think I saw a little less praise in comparison to Spencer. But on Metacritic right now, it's 76 generally favorable reviews. Some of them from The Telegraph. Robbie Collins says, Denis Villeneuve's new adaptation of the 1965 Frank Herbert novel starring Timothée Chalamet is an awe-inspiring piece of work. Other stuff from, let me see. BBC's Nicholas Barber says, a film with this scope and richness is a splendid achievement, but it's easier to admire than to love. So most people, I'm saying, if you're not like super entertained by it, you are at least give high praise to it. Los Angeles Times Justin Chang says, to call this Dune a remarkably lucid work is to praise it with very faint damnation. Perhaps reluctant to alienate the novices in the audience, Villeneuve has ironed out many of the novel's convolutions to the likely benefit of comprehension, but at the expense of some rich imaginative excess. So at the end of the day, Other than like David Elricks or
Ehrlich?
Ehrlich, thank you. David Ehrlich's from IndieWire. Again, someone whose last name I have not heard spoken out loud until right now. Says, in the end, Denis Villeneuve was all too right. Your television isn't big enough for the scope of this Dune. But that's also because this lifeless space opera is told on such a comically massive scale that a screen of any size would struggle to contain it. But he gave it a mixed review, not a downright negative review, it looks like, from what Metacritic was saying. So from what I'm seeing is that there are no pans of Dune. It's depending on if it works. And most people are saying that it's something that works from a spectacle standpoint and less on a story standpoint, because it literally leaves you hanging for that part 2, from what I've gathered. What are your thoughts on the reception that has been Dune?
Well, okay, what I have gathered is the cast is fantastic in the film, and they all are serviceable in their various roles. Yes. And this is a massive cast. It's this movie based the 1985 David Lynch movie had a massive cast as well. And then the scope of it. So the things to talk about by the scope is probably like the cinematography, the CGI, the things that
production, costumes,
production design, costume, that kind of stuff. And it's lacking in what, to be honest, the David Lynch film lacked in, and the book lacks in. A story that people can get behind. Whereas Star Wars had a farm boy from Tatooine, and he becomes this movie doesn't have that kind of like character. Yeah, is Paul Atreides the main character, and is he a character that the movie focuses on? His journey through the movie, yeah, but he's not that kind of. You don't have that like space pirate with Han Solo with his space dog, and you don't have a princess, and you have an evil, just Darth Vader type. I mean, I guess it takes itself too seriously. Dune does. Mm-hmm. Frank Herbert obviously wrote this material, and he takes it too seriously. Whereas Star Wars, it really doesn't take itself too seriously until later on. And that's what people got behind at the beginning. Not trying to compare Star Wars and Dune, but you really, in a way, they're trying to make the next Star Wars with Dune. Denis Villeneuve's trying to reboot this thing from the past to kind of bring the world the next Star Wars. And even when we heard the rumors of him doing this, and then him actually getting the job, and like, can he recreate Star Wars? Are they going to be able to do that? And is Dune that thing that redo to recreate Star Wars? I don't know if it was going to ever be. And so the story was always going to be the problem. And that's where, as far as a director goes, you have to get a script that you have to change some of these kind of weird things that are in that book. There's some weird stuff.
And I've never read the book, but from what I'm gathering and what you're saying, it's that, and from reading these reviews, is that he tried to make it more accessible by being able to do that. And I think that's what makes this one, from what I'm reading, better than the one with David Lynch, because it was made more accessible, streamlining the story a little bit more. Again, we'll have to wait and see. But so far, these are good reviews. These are, at the heart, they're no panning, no bad reviews. The closest one, again, is from IndieWire, or Variety, I think, is also another one. I'm not positive, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I see these, and I'm just kind of Vanity Fair, excuse me, it's Vanity Fair. I don't want to make sure I get that correct. It was not Variety, it was Vanity Fair that had another mixed review on it. But because it wasn't an overwhelming love, do you think this is going to come down to a movie that could, again, we're an Oscar podcast, so we're going to prognosticate as much as possible. Do you think this still has Oscar chances, even though the reviews were, while not critical acclaim, outside of below the line, of course, from CGI, production design, all that stuff, but do you think above the line, when they get to screenplay and the acting and directing and because the picture, I forgot about picture. Do you think that still has a chance? Because Blade Runner 2049 had critical acclaim, but it still missed out on a lot of things. Do you think this is going to suffer the same fate?
I think box office is going to be a key, but I think if you look at if you put this in the same kind of lane as Black Panther. Look what it got. It got picture, and it got all those below the line things, right? And this is going to get costumes. It's going to get cinematography. It's going to get production design. It's going to get visual effects. But do you atone that to Denis Villeneuve? So that's going to be the key, where if they say this is his magnum opus, this is his vision, this is Dune is, if we didn't get Denis Villeneuve directing this, we wouldn't get this great movie, despite the fact the script and the story might be a little wonky, and it wasn't going to be the most accessible story to begin with. But that's getting away from a little bit what you're saying. Definitely the two big ones is picture and director, and that's only if box offices and people can relate to this movie. Then all those below the line, definitely. I mean, it's going to clean up below the line, I think. I see. Nomination wise, it'll clean up.
Even 2049, it got correct me if I'm wrong, it got visual effects and cinematography. So that's two that it got, and it still got some nominations below the line. And I think that this is going to do very well, as you said, below the line. I don't think we're going to get any actors just from seeing the reaction. It's nothing. No one seemed to stand out.
Nope.
They have to really love Dune to bring that in. Picture and director are its only above the line chances at this point. And they're going to have to really respond to Dune. And it's going to have to do really good numbers, I think, personally.
It really has to resonate with a lot of people on the level of like a Black Panther, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe not $1 billion, but enough to where it's like, it's enough to where people are like, I want to go to the movies to see a big blockbuster, because we really won't have anything. I guess No Time to Die, because this comes out. Yeah. Oh Lord, this comes out in about
October's gonna be packed.
Yeah, so they're trying to make sure they get themselves out before all that. But anyway, that is Dune. Those are the reactions we've had to Dune. Another movie that recently we were talking about beforehand that one of our favorite reviewers was raving about, and that's King Richard. Scott Mantz had some words to say about it on his Twitter. He said, "Excellent film, a rousing, feel-good crowd pleaser about the rise of tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams. Oscar noms for Will Smith, lead actor, and Aunjau Ellis, forgive me if I butchered that. I'm known to do these things. Maybe best pick. Love them from start to finish." Now, everything that I've seen from King Richard, it shows that this is a Will Smith with maybe an actor thrown in, maybe a picture a la Blindside, but this doesn't look to be something that people are touting as, wow, this is the best film of the year. But they are saying this might be the best male performance of the year, Dan.
They might be able to drag Best Picture along with that performance, because the performance by Will Smith is so good. He pulls and drags that movie to success because of his performance. And you might be able to get the script in there, a possible script award in there, because if he's got that great of a performance, he's obviously reading something off of something that's great. So potential script, I don't know if it's adapted or original, but that's the thing. That's why I always like the script awards, because it's 10. You get 10 potential people. 10 now, we get 10 pictures, 10 potential scripts. Why can't we do more with the actors and actresses? I mean, how about bump it to 6? I say 7, but at least give us 6. I mean, this is getting really old, that the fact that we can't get more best actors, more best actresses, more supporting actresses, more supporting actors, more directors. 5 directors? Are you kidding me? 6 actors, 5 actors, 5 actresses. I mean, you got it. When they started these awards, and I don't mean to get off on this tangent, man.
That's okay, yeah.
They didn't have as many movies being made. We're getting 300, 400 movies a year being made. And yet you can't give out 6 nominations or 7 nominations. Come on.
I think that to that point, since we're already out on this subject, what I wanted to say is, like, I think that having this again, whether they're adding 1, 2, or whatnot, I think they wanted to keep it at 5. This is my perception because there's still an exclusivity. They're still wanting this is one of they fought for this. Now that means some people are going to get thrown by the wayside, like all the time, as we were just talking about inside Llewyn Davis. Oscar Isaac missed out on his Oscar nom because Lord knows, I don't even remember who took it that year. That was a big 2013 was a hard fought year for a lot of, I think Christian Bale from American Hustle was one to take his spot, which I would have gladly kicked out personally for inside Llewyn Davis. Regardless, someone is going to miss out. And I think the discussion needs to be had of, do you guys want to go like the Emmys and go 6, maybe 7 for supporting, or do we keep it at 5? And what do we do to make sure we evaluate and make sure that people see the performances that we are discussing and talking about? But what I wanted to talk about was King Richard, as I was saying. Scott Mantz and some other people I saw gave it a rousing, thumbs up, mainly based upon the fact that Will Smith steals the show. Do we have a best, like for Spencer, for Kristen Stewart for Best Actress, do we have a front runner, not a lock, but a front runner in Will Smith?
Well, I'll tell you right now. Okay, real quick. Jennifer Hudson, Kristen Stewart, Jessica Chastain. There's your right now. You're starting to get your people, line up these people. You got Peter Dinklage and Cyrano. You got Benedict Cumberbatch in Power of the Dog, but I think above them two, as of right now, I mean, until I see all the movies, you got to put Will Smith as the head guy for Richard, King Richard. You got to put him in the lead right now after his movie. Even though Peter Dinklage's movie did premiere at Telluride, and he got great praise as well. So we're starting to see this stuff line up, Manning, and it's lovely.
It's beautiful. We've waited all the time for this. And another actually from Variety, one of great from Clayton Davis Variety, showcasing some of his finest moments as an actor. King Richard is such a crowd pleaser. It'll be difficult to not find room in your heart for his triumphant story of determination and dreams. So maybe a blindside comparison is not great because the movie, I think, had trepidation in comparison to what people were saying in comparison to the performance of Sandra Bullock. This one seems to be a regular crowd pleaser and could actually, you're right, it could get a best actor and a picture, and that might be it. With 10 now, that might be it, but I think they'd be happy with that.
Oh yeah, and if you look at the best picture race, it's usually a mix. It's a mix of all kinds of different films, and with a lot of these types of different films coming out, you're gonna want. I'll tell you what, we're getting some good biopics this year.
Oh, 100%. And speaking of that's all the biopics. I was trying to have a transition from something that was a biopic, but that's the only thing that we've had.
That's right.
Well, actually, while we don't have a biopic, we have a possible autobiographical movie, and that is Kenneth Branagh's Belfast. With a fantastic trailer that was released. And the reviews that came out for Belfast, to me, are a great symbol of what to expect from Kenneth Branagh's. I think they were mostly overwhelming positive. People were saying the word best picture. They weren't saying anything about, this is the best actor, this is a great, or this blah, blah, blah. They're saying this is best picture bound. Dan, what were your thoughts on Belfast basically coming out of nowhere, us knowing about it, but coming out of nowhere from what could be a sense of like, wow, this is a force to be reckoned with from Kenneth Branagh?
When you look at these lists of movies that are potential awards contenders, and you see this different Power of the Dog, Hand of God, Belfast, you're like, okay. Then you see the trailer, and then you're like, yeah, I want more of Belfast. I want to see Belfast now. And Hand of God, Power of the Dog, Spencer, King Richard, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. So it gets your mouth watering for something. And when I saw that trailer, and I'm a sucker for movies that take place in Ireland about the struggle of the Irish immigrant, because my family is Irish and they came over from Ireland, and I lived here, and we've had a struggle here in America. my family had. But so I am a sucker for the Irish immigrant story, and that trailer looked amazing. It looks like it's a split, half color, half black and white. So it's going to be interesting how that kind of thing works as far as the film goes. And it looks like it's a passion project for Kenneth Branagh.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people aren't the biggest fans of Kenneth Branagh, but maybe this will get them on board with him.
No, agreed. And Tom Rhys-Lafley from Variety said that Belfast is sweet and if somewhat unremarkable. Clearly a deeply personal childhood story Kenneth Branagh had to get out of his system, and you can't help but respect that. Like his Roma, but stylistically very different. So there's a comparison drawn to Roma, which is a very personal story for Alfonso Cuarón, also in black and white. Clayton Davis from Variety also says Belfast is beautiful, incredibly touching. It's the first movie this year that I think can win Best Picture. Kenneth Branagh's most personal endeavor, Ciarán Hinds. Ciarán Hinds and Judi Dench are Oscar bound. So that's two supporting grandparents that are in this movie.
Yeah.
And then last one from Matt Neglia from Best Picture. Kenneth Branagh delivers his most personal and his best film with Belfast, shot in crisp digital black and white with vivid fondness. It's a crowd-pleasing tribute to home and family and may feel familiar, but it has so much heart. Jamie Dornan and especially Catriona Balfe are terrific. I think Balfe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the reviews that we have had so far for Belfast. Again,
I thought I saw color in the trailer. Maybe I'm just completely wrong.
There was at the very beginning, and I think that's going to be like the setup, and then we're going to be thrown back in past. Okay. That's what my theory is.
All right. I was just making sure I wasn't saying it was color, and it wasn't. There's no color in it.
No, there is color. There is color, but it was just I think it was just the Judi Dench's voiceover at the beginning of the trailer, and then it went into black and white. So I think this is a type of movie that can be readily embraced by the Academy, the old guard of the Academy, and the new guard. I guess I'll refer to it as such. This is something that could be very much, again, they love passion projects, and if Roma was anything, this looks like a passion project. Yeah, no, this has picture, director, maybe acting, screenplay, everything that I'm looking at. Cinematography, they love their black and white movies. Yep. Everything that I'm seeing is, to me, basically a symbolic gesture of like, hey, we love this film so much. Symbolic gesture is the wrong word, excuse me. It is a arousing success from what I'm seeing from Belfast. Like, this looks like a movie that could go the distance.
Yeah, that trailer really did it for me. So I'm definitely where the name Belfast was on my. I'm thinking Belfast, interesting. And then once I saw that trailer, it was like, okay, I'm all in on Belfast now.
Oh no, I can't wait. But speaking of Belfast, actually, just kidding. There is nothing in comparison to Belfast. Another one that came out that we are all excited for. I myself am very excited because I love Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is one of my favorite filmmakers from a stylistic standpoint. From what I'm reading, though, is that this movie doesn't really have the flashy cuts, doesn't really have, that stylistic Edgar Wright style. And that is his kind of thriller horror movie, Last Night in Soho. And from what I'm gathering, that did not get as a glowing review as some of the other films that were there. There was some mixed reception upon that. One of the ones that I saw in particular was from Cody Derricks from Next Best Picture. Edgar Wright is one of my favorite working filmmakers, so it pains me to say that The Last Night in Soho was a bit of a disappointment. It starts out so strong, but then the narrative takes some turns that don't quite work. Still, it looks good, and Thomason and Anya are great, which glad to hear that. Luke Harefield from Venice says, Last Night in Soho isn't Wright's best work. It takes a while to get along, and not all the ideas coalesce together. But it was perplexing. The costumes are ravishing. The soundtrack is irresistible, and it features a juicy final performance from Diana Rigg, who I forgot was actually in her final performance.
Are we looking at a posthumous Oscar nomination for Diana Rigg here for Best Supporting Actress?
It's incredibly possible because I would not put it past the Academy to do something along those lines because of how respected she was. But again, I think her performance is going to have to, you know, she can't campaign. It's going to have to be something that people are going to have to remember and see. And so far, most of the reviews, while, you know, they're good, they're nothing that's like spectacular. It has a lower score so far than Dune. 74 on Metacritic, which is generally favorable reviews. Most people say it's good. But the stylistically, it is breathtaking. So from a style standpoint, it works well. From a screenplay, it starts to fall in the second half, is what I'm wondering. Because Marshall Schaffler on Film says, "Last Night in Soho, with all its warts and wonders, shows you can teach an old dog some new tricks." So I think that's a symbolization that, you know, this is different from Edgar Wright. This is a departure from his usual things. And from
a lot of horror movies, Manning, a lot of horror movies start out good. And they also start out with a great idea, but they can never land that idea. And maybe that's what the deal is here with Last Night in Soho. It is a great idea, and it starts out great, and then it doesn't know how to land that ship, that plane. It doesn't know how to land that plane. Even though Edgar Wright, we like Edgar Wright as a director. You know, it doesn't matter. He's one of those guys, whatever he does, we're going to go see it. And then you got two amazing actresses, Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie. So you're like, we're in no matter what for The Last Night in Soho. And we want that style. That's something that we love about. But if it doesn't land from a story point of view, what are you going to do? I mean, no, none of them. Very few movies are perfect. So every movie has a problem. Even Best Picture winners, even Oscar-nominated films, even 12-time Oscar-winning films still aren't perfect. They have problems, or whatever. 11-time Oscar-winning films, whatever. So we're in no matter what. And it almost at this point, it doesn't matter what people say about The Last Night in Soho. We're going to go see it because we want to see this movie, you know?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think this shows that maybe it's not an Oscar player. Maybe it's more just an entertaining movie to enjoy. And maybe Last Night in Soho, sadly, will not get Edgar Wright his nomination, but maybe, of course, it'll, you know, give us some enjoyment at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, if any of the actresses can slip into some of these awards categories, that's probably a bonus for the film. Maybe cinematography, you know.
Maybe cinematography looks good. Maybe editing. He
maybe editing. There you go. Yeah, there you go.
But that is Last Night in Soho. Gonna probably take that off of my Oscar predictions for the time being because just of how, you know, wasn't a glowing review in comparison to some of the other ones that we had, and it is, of course, genre, so that always has a hard time getting in. Another one that we were talking about is one that you had mentioned beforehand, and that is Peter Dinklage played a role on Broadway or off Broadway, and it is an adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac. Joe Wright decided to say, you know what, Woman at the Window was supposed to come out last year, but let me redeem myself and let me make another movie called Cyrano, which is an adaptation. His wife, Haley Bennett, who is also in this, is actually was actually on off Broadway with Peter Dinklage. They brought them together. They got out on it. They bought out, I think, an entire island or something with like old cobblestone ruins or something to tell the story, and they filmed live like Les Mis. They filmed the actors singing live, and again, we don't have any trailer, we just have a couple of pictures that we've seen. But while the reviews are not saying this is a crowning achievement by any stretch of imagination, Peter Dinklage is getting praised, incredibly so, and this could be akin to maybe a nomination, maybe a win. Does Will Smith have some competition in Peter Dinklage's Cyrano de Bergerac, Dan?
Oh, yeah. You know, I don't know if you have Scott Mann's tweet there or whatever, but he definitely gave this amazing praise, and he was all over Peter Dinklage. And the Oscar experts, some of our constituents, had him in their group like somebody that they were really zoning in on is going to be in that 5. And so I definitely put him in the mix for old Willie Smith. He's got some competition. Definitely the competition right now is starting to heat up, which is what I like. This is getting good now. and we're only in early September, man. And it's
Oh
getting
yeah.
good.
So we're gonna have wow. He says, "Wow, Cyrano is a triumph, an epic, exquisite, beautiful, timeless love story. So romantic, perfect date movie, heart, humor, and even some action. Peter Dinklage gives the performance of his career. Bold statement. Oscar noms across the board. Loved it. That was in fact amazing praise to be given for Cyrano." So I'm excited to see how this transpires because I've heard none of the music. I've never seen his performance on any certain thing whatsoever. So I'm curious as to see like how, Cyrano plays out.
All we know is Gerard Depardieu as Cyrano de Bergerac. That's all we know, basically. So that's all I have to go off of is Gerard Depardieu. And I'm just curious to see what Peter Dinklage does with this character. And then we have Roxanne with Steve Martin, right? Roxanne is like a modern day retelling of Cyrano de Bergerac.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Roxanne.
So those are the only things we really have to go off of. So I'm really curious to see what this vision of Cyrano is by Joe Wright. I'm a fan of Joe Wright. A lot of people did not like The Woman in the Window, but I did. I actually did like it. I wanted like a longer version. I think it would have been better if they would have had a longer version, had it explain some of the subtext of what was going on. But that's another. The Darkest Hour. Oh my God. Atonement, right? Is that him, Joe Wright?
Oh, that is Atonement. Yes.
Yeah. So he's got it in him to
Pride and
make
Prejudice.
great movies and get great performances out of his actors. Gary Oldman won an Oscar for playing Churchill. Obviously, Saoirse Ronan got nominated. So we know that he can get great performances out of his actors. So as a musical, this is interesting.
No, and every time a movie of his is hit, like even go back to Pride and Prejudice, I was saying he got a nomination for Keira Knightley for Best Actress. So again, if this hits, we could be seeing Peter Dinklage in his first Oscar nomination, and that'd be really cool. But also, Cyrano made its premiere at Telluride Film Festival, but we are going to transition to a movie that premiered at both of them, and that was one we mentioned prior. Dan, you had said The Power of the Dog. Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog. And let me tell you, if there was a movie that has gotten so much besides maybe like a Spencer, which I have seen the internet erupt with praise for from both different sides of the globe, from Venice and Telluride, it's The Power of the Dog. Some people called it a stone cold masterpiece. I think Awards Daily retweeted or quote tweeted me, and I asked them a question, and I said, what about Power of the Dog? They say, let's not call anything a lock, everybody. I retweeted, well, what about something like, that gets all this praise, something like Power of the Dog? I have a hard time seeing that miss, even though it is festival hype. I have a hard time seeing something like this miss with all the praise it's getting. And their response was, I'm going to get this in particular because I think that's telling. It all depends. The Power of the Dog is a stone cold masterpiece by a living legend. So that, I think, is something to look out for. A director like Jane Campion, who gave, as you said last week when we recorded our last episode, The Piano, which is in and of itself a triumphant film. It's kind of a beautifully unnerving film from what I'm gathering, because literally Matt Neglia from Next Best Picture said, methodically unnerving and deeply complex in its characters and themes, The Power of the Dog will challenge audiences as much as it will enthrall. Benedict Cumberbatch's imposing performance frightens and stuns, while Kristen Dunst commands our sympathy, arresting cinematography and score. And then another one is, I'm trying to find out where it was. Did I not do this? Oh no, that's the only one that I got. I know I had a second one here somewhere, or maybe I didn't. Here we go. Yeah, from Mark Johnson from Words Daily says, The Power of the Dog is meticulously crafted and wonderfully executed. Cumberbatch is a menacing force, and Johnny Greenwood's skin-prickling score is one I'll be playing on repeat the second I can get my hands on it. Johnny Greenwood's, I'm imagining, he had Spencer too.
Oh boy, Johnny Greenwood. Well, look out for him. But put him at the top of the Oscar list for score.
For one of them, just pick out, throw a dart, and maybe you'll get one.
Splot's got 2 before, right?
Yeah, he got 2 in 1 year. You're right. But right now it has a 90 on Metacritic with universal acclaim. All basically like positive ratings. All of them are positive ratings. There's not a mix. There's not a negative. Hollywood Reporter gave it a glowing review. Time gave it a glowing review. The Wrap gave it a glowing review. Variety gave it a glowing review. Owen Gleiberman said all of this should build slowly and inexorably. Wow, look at him using big words over here. In force and emotion, but for a film that's actually at heart rather tidy and old-fashioned in its triangular gamesmanship, The Power of the Dog needed to get to a more bruising catharsis in its crucial not gonna spoil its last act stuff right over there. I'm not gonna say anything about that. He mentions that, so let's not do that.
You gotta be better than that. You gotta be better.
It's only a little bit. Like it just kind of tells a little bit what the feeling of the last act gave, but I don't want to give anything away whatsoever because I know absolutely nothing about this movie. But this kind of symbolizes to me that there's something underneath the surface and something to look forward to in The Power of the Dog. What are your thoughts on how rapturous this review The Power of the Dog has been?
Well, the thing is this. When movies are getting comparisons to There Will Be Blood and actors like Benedict Cumberbatch are getting comparisons to Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood, that rings a bell for me. That chimes in my head. Yeah, I need to check out Benedict Cumberbatch right now. Look, Benedict Cumberbatch has been doing a lot of these kinds of roles that are good roles, but they're not like showing him how great of an actor is. Sherlock showed me the potential of how great of an actor Benedict Cumberbatch can be. And The Imitation Game, his last Oscar nomination, showed me the guy has that it factor. Finally, Jane Campion might have gotten that out of him because of her script and her story. That can be the type of story that can really be like something that's very fascinating. But with Jane Campion's writing and directing, and they're saying the skin-crawling score by Johnny, that word, skin-crawling score, that's just like, yes, let me hear this score right now, So yeah, I'm just all in on, I want to see The Power of the Dog today.
Agreed. I want to know what that power is too. Tell us, what is the power of the dog? Who is the dog? What's its power? I saw one reviews call it a great dissection of toxic masculinity and how this man kind of is this incredibly gruff force of nature who has no like empathy or sympathy inside him. And I'm so curious to see this almost villainistic turn. You're right. This is There Will Be Blood, like, because he is not a hero at the end of the day. Like, he is not a hero. But
and how he treats Paul Dano is just like, wow,
who's also not the best guy, but in and of itself, that is a famous scene at the very end where it's, I drink your milkshake, and he doesn't go out great. Spoiler alert.
No.
And we're going to talk about one more film before we start to wrap it up because we were about to go a little long. Another one that came out is Parallel Mothers. Parallel Mothers from Almodovar. Pablo Almodovar. Oh, probably. What was that?
Pedro Almodovar.
Pedro Almodovar. Thank you. Not Pablo Almodovar. That's Pablo Larraín. Wait. Pablo Larraín?
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm about to say, there we go. From Almodovar, who also did The Amazing Pain and Glory. Parallel Mothers received more striking reviews and has an 85 right now with 10 positive reviews so far from Metacritic. Most people are praising the fact of the performance from Penelope Cruz.
Yeah.
And I believe her name was Melissa Smith. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm probably getting that wrong. It's most people, while they say it's not as a complete film as Pain and Glory, they say the performances are something to behold. And I wanted to highlight that real fast because this could, of course, be something we look out for when it comes to actress, or this could be something we completely forget. Oh, go ahead.
Well, but we know that he has worked with Penelope Cruz before, and he's gotten great performances out of Penelope Cruz before at Voltaire. You know, he works with her and Antonio Banderas a lot, and it seems like every time they work together, they get he gets great performances out of them. And Pedro Almodovar is a great director. I mean, the guy's been doing great work for decades. And by the way, I just want to real quick, Jane Campion. It'll be like if Power of the Dog gets nominated for, it'll be almost 30 years since since the Casino. So that's a long gap between Oscar pictures.
And what I was saying is it could easily be, I don't know if this is going to be their plan, but Spain's Oscar entry into the foreign language category, because it is in fact in Spanish. The country of origin is Spain, so they could in fact submit this. And I'm curious to see how they manage to, Sony Pictures Classics, since they've acquired it, how they had its world premiere on September 1st, one of the first things out of the Venice Festival that day, and already had some great, had a great just reception. So look out possibly for Penelope Cruz making it in. Maybe this is something that's going to get into foreign language film. If she makes it in, you can almost bet your bottom dollar foreign language film is going to get again. And this could repeat what happened last year or 2 years ago, with Pain and Glory, and making it in foreign language film, and Antonio Banderas, making it into actor.
And same thing goes for Hand of God. We're probably going to get that main kid from who's in the trailer. He seems to be the star of the movie. If Hand of God gets all this kind of praise for best foreign language film director, possibly whatever, you might get that kid in there. The kid, I can't remember the kid's name.
I can't remember it either.
It's an Italian film, so that could be Italy's representation of best foreign language film, and you might get that kid to slip in one of the.
And so far it does have it has very good positive reviews so far, but it also has 3 negative with a 70% rating on Metacritic right now. So it's not as high as some of the other ones as well too. I haven't seen too many they say it's not one of his crowning achievements yet, but it's incredibly personal filmmaking, like Belfast is. It's another very personal film, but I don't think this is something that is, I guess, was very high in people's expectations, but didn't land as much too. So that's what I've seen with The Hand of God, but I haven't seen too many reactions to find enough.
And the thing too is, going back for the rest of the year, the last part of it, there hasn't been a lot of standouts for foreign language film
that we've seen so far. Usually they reveal themselves at the very end of the year, and then we're like, aha, because Q Vadisaida, I believe I pronounced that correct, is still my second favorite film of last year. It probably might be my first by this point, just because I love it so much. And there are quality foreign language films out there. It's the question of, we can't see them because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's hard to go about looking for films unless they're right there in your face. And hopefully by the end of the year, they'll be right in our face. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Usually if they get like awards contention, a lot of these foreign language films, they'll start popping up January and February, right around award season in our country. But they already came out 4, 5, 6 months earlier in Spain, England,
agreed,
wherever, Brazil, Italy, whatever, Germany, whatever,
whatever. Well, actually, remember, it's international film now, not a foreign language film. I forgot about that too, and I realized
Belfast. I wonder who's the production company behind Belfast, and is it a foreign production company? Could Belfast international feature? Could Belfast slip into international feature? That
is a great question. Depending on the country of origin, I think, and when it was actually, that's a good question, Dan. But the question we will not. It's a question we will not answer though today, because we are wrapping it up today, because we literally went through a lot of the films, not every film, but these are some of the big ones that have contention under their name, be it from, as we said, foreign language film, or international film, all the way to best picture and best cinematography. As we wrap up, Dan, where can the people find you?
Oh, you can always find me at Dan Skipal on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Also, I am a film critic in Orlando, Florida. I write for a website called disappointmentmedia.com. I haven't been writing down my blog lately, but and I do a couple of YouTube shows, Bleacher Features and Top 5 Weekly, which are on hiatus right now. So, but if you want to read anything that I have written, you can go to disappointmentmedia.com.
It is quite hard to juggle a lot of things going on. I can attest to that, Dan, because I've not posted enough on my YouTube channel, Manning Franks, as much as I should have, because life gets in the way a lot. This is my hobby. That's hard to do all these different things at once. But you can find me on Twitter at Cine_man. That's CINE_MANN. And no, I am not at Telluride, nor am I at Venice, sadly. And you can find me here at Take 3 Productions, where I host, of course, as you see, Gone with the Wind. Find us on Apple Podcast. Tell your friends about it. Oh, we're on Spotify, Anchor, anywhere where you get your streaming podcast. We are there for your listening pleasure. And of course, YouTube. Can't forget about YouTube. You can also find me at WFMY News 2 in Greensboro, where we're live basically every 4 p.m. And once a week, I try to do a review for our show. This past week was Coda, doing a review for Coda. So I am there, and I am the official reviewer for our site. So that's a really cool thing. Thank you guys again for joining us on this episode of Gone with the Wind. And we look forward to seeing you at the movies or a film festival, perhaps. Socially distanced, of course, and masks. Please wear your mask. You know what? Just be safe. Have a good day. I'll see you at the movies.